Here with reaction, House Intelligence Committee Chairman Devin Nunes. Congressman, good to see you. Thank you for being with us.
Great to be back.
I am a bit stunned at the Schiff memo, and I guess there's a reason that many in the liberal media aren't covering it, because it corroborates so much of what you said. The Steele dossier, as the Grassley-Graham memo says, was the bulk of the information that the phony, unverified Russian, Clinton bought and paid for Russian dossier. That was the bulk of the FISA warrant. That's now on the record, correct?
Yeah, that is the case, and not only that, it is basically the bulk of the entire investigation. It's what the Democrats have used over and over again. They've always went back to Carter Page. It wasn't until a couple weeks ago that they started to distance themselves from the dossier, which was their information that they paid for.
All right, and what's so important to me is, so Hillary, she's bought and paid for, her and the DNC, then it's used as the basis for a FISA warrant. But here's what's not addressed by Adam Schiff, and he loves television. I mean, he's literally auditioning daily to be an MSNBC contributor. But the most glaring thing to me is it never mentions in his memo at all Clinton or the DNC, just like it was never told to the FISA judge. Now,
right. Yeah, that's our biggest problem from the beginning. Remember, this was only about FISA abuse. Phase one of our investigation was to say, look, FISA abuse occurred. And the reason that we wanted the Democratic memo out, if you recall, over 2 weeks ago, as soon as that was sent over to the White House, we're like, hey, we want it out. The White House came back. The FBI and DOJ said, hey, make the changes and get it back out. Well, then what you had is this supposed cover-up. They were blaming the president, saying the president wasn't getting this out. That was the farthest thing from the truth. They could have gotten this out 2 weeks ago. They could have made the redactions the FBI and DOJ wanted, and they could have gotten this out. And we wanted it out for precisely the reasons that you're mentioning tonight.
And the DOJ and the FBI never verified the Clinton bought and paid for dossier, although they knew it was political in nature, that she had paid for it. They never did their own verification.
Well, I think that's what's even more telling about the Democratic memo that we like, is that they actually say in there in the footnote, and they give you the verbatim, they go out of their way to actually say how this was used, how it was political, but then they don't say specifically who paid for it, which we can't, and we just can't have a FISA court. We can't have our intelligence agencies and our intelligence capabilities used to target one political party against another, and that's what happened here.
Isn't that lying by omission, sir?
Well, I'm not an expert on that, Sean, but clearly the way we see it, it was a lot more complicated to put what they put to put what the FBI and DOJ presented to the FISA court than it would have been just to say, look, here, Judge, this is who paid for it.
I guess the next thing I want to know is, so we've had allegation after allegation after allegation, Trump-Russia collusion. Is there any evidence to date of any Trump-Russia collusion of any kind that you or anybody on your committee or anybody in the FBI or Department of Justice or Robert Mueller's investigation has come up with that you have seen?
Not that I've seen. And the only collusion that I continue to say that I have seen and we have proof of is that the Democrats hired a British agent, former British agent, who went to supposed Russians to get dirt on the Trump campaign. I mean, it is collusion. It's clear collusion, and nobody's investigating it, and nobody's talking about it.
Are crimes, in your view, committed here in terms of the FISA application, the role of high-ranking, not rank and file, high-ranking FBI, DOJ, intelligence people? And what does it say about this whole year plus that this country has been consumed with an investigation that apparently has no evidence whatsoever? Should it go away?
Well, look, I think there's a variety of crimes that you'd have to look at. You have conspiracy would be the largest. It's also the hardest to prove. You have lying and misleading Congress. You have the court that could actually do something if they feel like they were lied to. But the bigger problem here, I think, over all of this, just FISA abuse specifically, is I just think the American public reject the idea that you can use a secret court, take political dirt from one party and use it against another. I think all Americans can agree with that.
Didn't Glenn Simpson also admit in testimony that, in fact, he never corroborated, he never verified, and at times, I believe it might have been the Senate, maybe not your committee, but I believe he also admitted that they had coordinated in terms of media outreach to get out information that was never verified, that was Clinton bought and paid for, that was connected to Russia?
Well, look, you have to assume, I mean, you know that Glenn Simpson and Steele were meeting with numerous reporters. And maybe this is why when I say the media is dead, maybe they're embarrassed, right? Because so many of them were briefed. Maybe they can't actually write about it because the emperor would have no clothes, right? It would be the height of hypocrisy if some of these reporters would come out and say, well, yeah, we were actually briefed on this dossier way back when. And, now knowing that it's totally false and totally disproven, salacious and unverified.
Let me ask you this last question. You said this is phase one. At another point in an interview that we did together, you talked about at least 4 other phases. Can you outline what else is coming and the specific areas of interest that you have in terms of investigations?
Well, the area that we're focusing on right now is the State Department. If you look at the questionnaire that we've sent out, so we have a questionnaire that went out to current and former senior members at the highest levels of government, where we're asking them very simple questions about the dossier, when they knew about it, who they told, when they knew the Democrats had paid for it. That questionnaire is due this Friday.
Did you find Susan Rice's note to self on the final day of the Obama administration odd?
Well, I would say it is another example of a long string of actions by Susan Rice that I think are odd.
Does it scare you that an unverified, political, bought and paid for document full of Russian lies, with all the talk about Russia collusion, could make its way to a FISA court, that the FISA judge is not informed about its origins, and that it becomes the basis to spy on an opposition party in the lead up to an election? Does that scare you as much as it does me?
Well, Sean, let me tell you what scares me more than that. It's that the party who did that, okay, meaning the Democrats in the House and the Senate, whose party did this, that they're actually, and if you read the Democratic memo closely, they actually say that that's okay.
That's scary.
And that, to me, is really bad. It's not oversight, and I think it brings up many questions about when did they actually know about this dossier? When did they know it? It was actually their own dossier that they used to drum up an investigation on Republicans.
All right, Congressman, thank you. Keep up the good work. We need the truth. The American people deserve it. When we come